What was Palestine then? Palestine was then the area between the Mediterranean and the Iraqi border.
You say there's no such thing as
East
Palestinian?
and West Bank, no. East and West Bank was Palestine. I'm a Palestinian. From 21 until 48, I carried a Palestinian passport. There was no such thing in this area as Jews and Arabs and Palestinians. There were Jews and Arabs.
The area of what is now called Palestine has been inhabited for thousands of years. It has been a historically significant location since the earliest days of civilization, because it is at a nexus point between multiple empires, which have controlled the region throughout the centuries. Like many of the other modern Arab nation-states, Palestine largely came into existence in the 20th century. The process was heavily influenced by the decline and eventual collapse of the Ottoman Empire, which had controlled much of the Arab world since the 16th century. Many of the Arab nation-states have long, rich histories stretching back thousands of years, encompassing some of the world's oldest civilizations. In this video, we will cover the ancient origins of the region of Palestine, as well as the origin of the name Palestine and why it's used today. Between 10,000 and 5,000 BC, agricultural communities were established. Evidence of such settlements were found at Tel es Sultan in Jericho and consisted of a number of walls, a religious shrine, and a 23-foot tower with an internal staircase. Jericho is believed to be one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities in the world, with evidence of settlement dating back to 9000 BC, giving us a crucial understanding about the early human civilization in the Near East. There is a long history of various tribes living in the region, most notably the mysterious Canaanites, who lived in modern-day Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, and West Jordan. They were a group of ancient people that shared a similar language and culture, but weren't necessarily a unified nation or empire. The Canaanites were known for establishing the cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Ugarit, hubs of trade and craftsmanship that played a central role in Mediterranean trade during the late Bronze Age. Archaeological evidence suggests the early Israelites may have originally been Canaanites, who developed their own distinct identity. This is demonstrated by cultural and linguistic continuity between the Canaanite city-states and emerging Israelite populations. Interestingly, a study published in the American Journal of Human Genetics found DNA sampled from Canaanite remains who lived 4,000 years ago. The findings show that present-day Lebanese people share more than 90% of their DNA with the ancient Canaanites, which is surprising given the turbulent history of the region. Palestinians, like other Levantine populations, probably also share genetic history from the Canaanites, despite the later Arab influx during the 7th century Muslim conquest. Both Jewish and Palestinian ancestries share connections to the diverse ancient tribes of the Bronze Age Levant. Their identities have been shaped by numerous additional factors over the centuries, including religion, culture, and subsequent invasions. Palestinian people, or al-Falastini in Arabic, have been referring to themselves as Palestinians since 1964. Before that, they referred to themselves as Arabs. During the period of the British Mandate, the term Palestinian was also used to describe the Jewish community living in Palestine, which the Jews later rejected for historical reasons that we will get into. However, previously under the Ottomans, Palestine's Arab population mostly saw themselves as Ottoman subjects, and there was no administrative region called Palestine. So when the British took over, they resuscitated this ancient name for the region, Palestine. But where did it come from? The name Palestine itself can be traced back to the Roman Empire. The Roman army arrived on the shores of the Holy Land in 63 BC. The Roman general Pompey the Great intervened in a civil war between two brothers, Hyrcanus II and Aristobulus II, of the Hasmonean kingdom of Judea, a semi-autonomous kingdom that had to navigate the politics and pressures of the larger Hellenistic world. Seizing the opportunity, Pompey captured Jerusalem after a 3-month siege, and although he entered the Jewish temple, he left its treasures intact. He made Judea a client kingdom of Rome, with Hyrcanus II appointed as king. After a few decades of periodic rebellions and instability, the Romans decided to incorporate Judea directly into their empire as a province, ruled by a Roman governor. The Romans ruled Judea with a heavy hand, and tensions escalated due to the religious and cultural differences. These tensions culminated in a series of revolts, which ended with the Roman destruction of the Second Temple in Jerusalem in 70 CE. In subsequent years, there were more revolts, like the Bar Kokhba revolt of 132. The Romans, after suppressing the Bar Kokhba revolt, renamed the province from Judea to Syria Palestina in an attempt to minimize Jewish identification with the land. The name Palestina was given to the whole region because it had been used by the Greeks for centuries, in the same way that the Romans named the province of Gaul after the Gallic people that lived there. The name Judea was also used to refer to the population of the Jews, who mainly inhabited that area. The new name of the province, Palestina, was more of a reference to the geographical area, as opposed to a group of people. Some scholars suggest it was to disassociate the Jewish people from their historical homeland as a punishment for their revolt, and identify Emperor Hadrian as the one responsible. So the word itself does date back to ancient times. However, the Romans probably derived the name Palestine from the Philistines, the name of the people who had occupied the region in the 12th century BC during the Bronze Age collapse. In the ancient Bronze Age, the Philistines sailed from the Aegean Islands and settled in Canaan. They are often associated with the cities of Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath. Through DNA analysis and archaeological finds, scientists have concluded that the Philistines did immigrate from the Aegean Islands, Crete, and the Greek mainland, as they have a lot of similarity with Mycenaean culture. This is why most scholars theorize that the Philistines may have been part of the mysterious Sea Peoples, who were groups of aggressive seafarers who invaded eastern Anatolia, Syria, Palestine, Cyprus, and Egypt towards the end of the Bronze Age, especially in the 13th century. They were responsible for the destruction of old powers such as the Hittite Empire. Philistine archaeological sites have revealed a distinctive material culture, with pottery that bears a striking resemblance to styles found in the Aegean. This further supports the idea of their maritime or Greek origin. Over time, Philistine material culture became more and more influenced by the local Canaanite culture. The Philistines had a pantheon of gods and goddesses, with Dagon and Baal-Zebub being among the most prominent deities. Temples dedicated to these gods have been uncovered in archaeological excavations. In the Hebrew Bible, the Philistines are frequently portrayed as adversaries of the Israelites. Notably, the stories involving the Philistines include the tales of Samson, the Ark of the Covenant being captured and then returned, and the battles between King David and the Philistine giant, Goliath. Cities that have been excavated in the area attributed to the Philistines give evidence of careful town planning, which relied on the production of olive oil. There is also considerable evidence for large-scale production of fermented drink. The finds include breweries, wineries, and beer and wine jugs. The Philistines also seem to be experienced metal workers, as complex wares of gold, bronze, and iron have been found at Philistine sites as early as the 12th century, as well as artisanal weaponry. Further evidence of Philistine domination of the metallurgical market lies in the Hebrew Bible, which claims that the Israelites relied heavily on Philistine blacksmiths for iron tools and weapons, despite the near-constant state of war between the two groups. The Philistines began to decline during the Assyrian conquests of the region in the 8th and 7th centuries. By the late 7th century, after the Babylonian conquest by King Nebuchadnezzar II, the distinctiveness of Philistine culture began to disappear, and their cities were either destroyed or absorbed into other cultures. After the Babylonian conquest, the Philistines lost all of their cohesive identity as a people. However, the region remained to be continuously inhabited with various peoples over the centuries. The region has been conquered by numerous empires, including the Persians, Alexander the Great, who took it over from them, and later the Romans. It first came under Muslim control when Jerusalem fell to the Rashidun Caliphate in 637. The Byzantine Empire had held Jerusalem for hundreds of years, until Caliph Umar ibn al-Khattab's forces conquered it. This also marked the beginning of Muslim conquest of the Levant, including the region of Palestine. The caliphs had begun a rapid conquest, and by the mid-7th century, Muslim Arab armies had conquered vast territories, including Persia, Egypt, and much of the Byzantine Empire's former lands. This marked the beginning of a long period of Muslim rule in the region. Following the initial conquest, the Arab and Islamic influence in Palestine grew, as did Arabic as the dominant language and Islam as the primary religion. Over time, many of the local inhabitants converted to Islam and became Arabized, though significant Christian and Jewish communities remained. Over the centuries, the specific ruling dynasties and empires changed, ranging from the Umayyads and Abbasids to the Fatimids, Ayyubids, Mamluks, and finally the Ottomans.
What was all this area before the First World War? When Britain got the mandate over Palestine, what was Palestine then? Palestine was then the area between the Mediterranean and the Iraqi border.
You say there's no such thing as
East
Palestinian.
and West Bank, no. East and West Bank was Palestine. I'm a Palestinian.